Good afternoon. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustments hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of June 25th, 2025. My name is Tim Rainey. I'm the chairman of the board. Mr. Jeffrey Penzis serves as secretary of the board. Mr. Penzis, may I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Claybrook.
Here.
Ms. Skurlock.
Here.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Present.
Chair Rainey.
Here. I think he just stepped in the hall, so he's, Mr. Love's here.
Mr. Love is here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is the oldest appointed governmental body in Memphis and Shelby County. We were established in 1925. The board hears appeals from the administration of the zoning ordinance, requests for variances from the zoning ordinance, and other requests articulated by local zoning laws adopted pursuant to the enabling legislation. The 8 members of the board are appointed, 4 by the mayor of Memphis and 4 by the mayor of Shelby County, with confirmation by the Memphis City Council or Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We serve without remuneration. At this time, I'd like to swear in the staff, and I'll remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Do we need to hold that vote?
Yes.
We're going to hold on that. We're going to table that vote just for a second and go forward with more announcements. Mr. Secretary, will you give us a report if you have one this month, and then explain the procedure for today's meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As for the Secretary's report, there are no announcements this afternoon. The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda can be found on the front podium. For each case, the planner with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, those speakers in support will have a total of 5 minutes. Then those speakers in opposition will have a total of 10 minutes. And then finally, the applicant will have 2 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the board. The chairman may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the board will be sworn in by the chairman. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicant since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the board will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. If the applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing, or if a board member wishes to hear additional testimony from any party, a 2/3 vote is required to reopen the public hearing pursuant to the board's rules of procedure. Please note that once the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and opposition will be allowed to provide additional testimony and or rebuttal. All motions by this board will be made in the affirmative. The private acts governing the board require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members to approve an application, regardless of the number of board members present. The board may also vote to hold an application for a period not to exceed 3 months with the consent of the applicant or 1 month without the consent of the applicant. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, which was adopted by the Memphis City Council and Shelby County Board of Commissioners in August of 2010 and became effective on January 1st, 2011. I will introduce the entire UDC and make it part of today's record, thus dispensing with the reading of individual sections. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases before us today under the provisions of Chapter 9.22 of the UDC. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled as required by the UDC.
Okay, thank you. And real quick, we moved and seconded the minutes from last month, and there was no discussion. All those in favor of approving last month's minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. At this point, the board will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience, staff, or board member objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads that case. Once the consent agenda is established, the board will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole, will not hold individual public hearings on those cases. Mr. Secretary, which items on our consent agenda are eligible to be placed on consent this month?
Item number 4, BOA 2025-54 at 837 Big Street as a hold for 1 month. Item number 7, BOA 2025-22 at 712 North Manassas Street as a hold for 1 month. Item number 8, BOA 2025-24 at 5958 North Watkins Street as approval with conditions. Item number 9, BOA 2025-40 at 687 Adams Avenue as a hold for 1 month. Item number 10, BOA 2025-42 at 2461 Kimbark Woods Cove as approval with conditions. Item number 11, BOA 2025-62 at 1039 Wrenwood Street as approval with conditions. Item number 12, BOA 2025-64 at 11264 Pleasant Ridge Road as approval with conditions. Item number 13, BOA 2025-66 at 2214 East Brooks Road as a hold for 1 month. Item number 15, BOA 2025-68 at 1396 Stacy Street as a hold for 1 month. Item number 16, BOA 2025-69 at 10025 Holly Grove Road as a hold for 1 month. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay. Thank you so much. So if we could get may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary? That's going to be number 4 and 7 as holds, 8 approval with conditions, 9 as a hold, 10, 11, and 12 approval with conditions, and then 13, 15, 16 as holds.
So moved.
Second. Okay, I want to remind the board that voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Claybrook,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Ms. Scurlock,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden,
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
and Chair Rainey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So if you're here for items 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, or 16, you've either been held or approved as requested. And so, Mr. Secretary, with that, would you call our first case we need to hear today?
Item number 1, BOA 2025-13 at 10011 Humphrey Road.
Okay, see the applicant's present. There's opposition as well. Okay, so if y'all just hold tight, we're going to hear a staff report first, and then we'll move on to the application for the applicant and the opposition. So, Mr. Waldrop, are you helping us with this? Wardrop, sorry.
Good afternoon, Nichols Wardrop Planning and Development. This is a request at 10,011 Humphrey Road in the unincorporated county for a use variance to allow a community theater use. So here you can see where we're at in relation to the rest of the county. The applicant's proposing to construct a 300-seat theater on a vacant property. That's not a permitted use in the CA Conservation Agriculture District, and so this variance would be required to do so. So here you see the property in red. It abuts a church use to the south, which an access easement, if approved, would be recorded to allow access to the property from Houston Levee through the church property. But the applicant is also requesting vehicular access from Humphrey Road to the north. And finding mainly that Humphrey Road is insufficient to accommodate this use, we are recommending rejection. So again, here's an aerial of the site. So access, if approved as requested, would come both from Humphrey Road to the north and from Houston Levee via the church property to the south. And here you can see that on a site plan. And so, again, the blue cyan arrows here show where access would, how the site would be accessible from Houston Levee via the church property. So here are the existing conditions of Humphrey Road. That's the road to the north. You can see it's very narrow. It's only 14 feet wide as far as the actual roadway. And here is the existing church entrance along Houston Levee. So you may be asking, if our main issue is with the access, why not just recommend approval on the condition that there can't be access from Humphrey Road? Why recommend outright rejection? And the reason for that mainly is that the board, as you know, in the required findings of fact, in approving a variance, the board must find that it will not be injurious to the neighborhood and general welfare. This use is actually already operating at a residence nearby and has led to neighborhood complaint. So in addition to the access concerns, we cannot find that this approval will not be injurious and therefore recommend rejection. And here are some enforcement photos of the nearby residence where the requested use is already operating. And here on your screen are some comments we were given from county engineering. You can see the county does not have any pending projects to widen Humphrey Road to accommodate two-lane traffic, and it isn't currently wide enough to accommodate two-way traffic. So we are recommending rejections. However, if approved, we're recommending these conditions, the main one being no access from Humphrey Road, which is condition number 2. With that, I'm available for questions.
Okay, so it's a use variance. You're saying it makes sense to do it, just never using Humphrey Road because it's so narrow.
That's the main concern. The other concern is this use is already operating at a nearby house, and that's led to neighborhood complaint. So we can't make that finding of lack of injury as well.
Right,
So.
okay, thank you. All right, if the applicant will come forward. All right, if you'll give your name and addresses for the record.
David Bray with the Bray Firm, 2950 Stage Plaza North.
Oakley Weddle, applicant, 9920 Humphrey Road, Cordova, Tennessee.
Okay, y'all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
We do.
Okay, and so I have one person that signed up to speak in favor.
Okay.
You know, technically our rules say you get 5 minutes and then support gets 5 minutes. You want me to just tell you when the 5 minutes are, or do you just want to take 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine. We're going to speak a little bit, and then we're going to reserve our time for rebuttal if we can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I want to make a couple of points about this, and then I'm going to let Mr. Weddle. I'm pleased to be up here representing this. I've known Oakley since he was about this tall. So happy to see that he's moving forward with this. I want you to keep in mind, and we're going to pass something up to you here in just a minute, showing Humphrey Road and the fact that a lot of times when we have these cases that are in the CA district, it is predominantly residential, and that's not the case here. There's a lot of uses along Humphrey Road, and yes, the roadway is narrow. But we want you to keep in mind that this site could be purchased and developed by a church with no board approval, no conditions, and they would impact that road 52 weekends a year and possibly Wednesday night as well, so maybe 104 days a year. What we have proposed and what we are willing to add to conditions is that the driveway that we showed to Humphrey Road would be used for normal daytime business operations. So the staff that is there, the folks coming in for rehearsal, but not the events. When it comes to events, the events would be held 4 weekends a year, 3 days over those weekends, Thursday, night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And at that time, we would have a gate that would be closed and all access would have to come through Humphrey. So we would never have the crush of traffic on Humphreys. Everybody on those event nights would come up through Houston Levee and through the Heritage Baptist Church site. And again, 12 nights a year. That's the impact that would have on that road besides the normal daily traffic that's on that road now. saw in there where the county engineer wants a trip generation, and we would prepare a trip generation based on regular days of operation and also event days of operation. So we would comply with both of those. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to let Mr. Weddle talk to you about his vision, and we'll get our support person up here, and then we'll reserve the rest of our time.
Hi, I'm going to save most of my comments for rebuttal, but I do want to just say good afternoon. My name is Oakley Weddle, and I am the applicant and founder and executive director of Firefly Creative. I want to first thank you and the staff for considering this application. I want to first tell you a bit about Firefly, the nonprofit theater organization that I founded. I've been involved in children's theater for over 15 years, as David mentioned. First as a student performer, then a volunteer, then an educator, a director, and now a producer. Theater has shaped every part of who I am, and it is the lens through which I give back. Firefly provides theater programming for students all over Shelby County. And in the past year alone, we have worked with over 200 young people and performed for over 5,000 people. Our students have performed on stages in parks, schools, community centers, retirement homes, and in partnership with some of the most beloved Memphis institutions like the Memphis Zoo, the Children's Museum, and we have an ongoing partnership with the Overton Park Shell. Just this spring, we launched a school and community tour of Schoolhouse Rock, and we brought the arts to places that might otherwise not get to experience theater. And in just a few months, a tour reached more than 3,000 people. And one story I just want to quickly say is we were able to go to Avon Lennox High School, which is a school in the Shelby County school system that serves disabled adults when they passed 18 years old. And the staff member pulled me aside after we performed Schoolhouse Rock, and they said, "We have been forgotten, and you did not forget us." And I believe that is the mission of Firefly. And as Firefly has grown, we established in May 2024, the need for a permanent home has become clear, and the property at 111 Humphrey Road represents that vision. It will be a quiet, tree-lined parcel where a small children's theater, operating primarily on evenings and weekends, could serve the community and continue our work of cultural and educational experiences. Thank you so much.
All right, we got 6 minutes, which means 8 minutes in rebuttal. Do
Okay.
we need to hear from Ms. Horlings now?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that
Okay.
now. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Horlings will come forward. And you'll give your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Kristen Horlings. I live at 3139 Heathstone Cove, Germantown.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Kristen Horlings, and I am a parent of 3 children who have participated in Firefly Creative. They've been deeply involved. I've seen how transformative it can be. It's more than just a place to perform. It's a place where they have built confidence, learned creativity, learned teamwork, and have a sense of belonging. Unfortunately, it's a place where my children, there's a lack of a permanent purpose-built space and has put some limits on what this program can offer my children and the community. Most importantly, I would prefer very much a building dedicated for Firefly, because with so many people passing by, I have witnessed people taking pictures of our children out in the yard, which is a huge problem for me, having my minor children photographed. Investing in a theater space for Firefly Creative is an investment in our youth, their voices, their imaginations, their futures. Our children deserve a space designed for them to continue to grow and shine, and I truly hope you'll consider supporting this building for Firefly.
Okay. How much time do we have left? 4 minutes. All right, 4 minutes. So it's actually almost 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 50 seconds.
Thank you.
Are there any questions right now of the applicant? Okay, I have a quick question for the applicant. Why are we trying to establish it here as opposed to anywhere else where it would have been allowed without a variance? Like, what's particular to this property?
My family at the trust, the Weddle Family Trust, already owns this property. So naturally, we found it we've owned this property since I believe 2021. Don't quote me on that. It could be 22. And through the process of trying to figure out what we were going to put on this land, it became clear that once we realized, I realized very early on that these annual productions, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in this rebuttal about those annual productions, the photos that were shown, were possibly causing complaints with the neighbors. I wanted to move it down the street in a properly enclosed area that's zoned properly, and I've wanted to do this the right way. So that is the reason why we're moving to that property versus another location.
Okay. And then why is it so important to have access off of Humphrey instead of Houston Levy, like through the church parking lot? Is the church, they're going to give us an easement, are they just saying for only a certain amount of time, or is it just that's convenient because y'all live down the street?
So the easement agreement that I've gone with Heritage Baptist, they've allowed us for ingress and egress on performance nights, but they have their own operations. Their church, they have their own school, they have different operations throughout the day when our rehearsals would be going on, so we would need access to Humphrey Road. And additionally, we were concerned about on performance nights too, people having to turn around because there was no access, but we would be directed that ingress egress would be on like every ticket, and the parking directions would be very clear for our event nights.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to the opposition. So I have two people here. Do y'all want to volunteer to come up, or do you want me to just call a name? Call a name. Oh, no, you, sir. Why don't you come up? And if you'll give your name and address for the record.
My name is Stanley Neely. I live at 9990 Humphrey Road, Cordova, Tennessee.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Neely.
Okay, thanks. First, I'd like to say thank you all for listening. I'd like to start by saying that the neighborhood appreciates the societal benefits that the organizations like Firefly Creative and Anchor Cottage Tutorial provides for the community. Several neighbors have explored homeschooling and our options for our children. This is about business for themselves, this is not about business, but about safety. General road issues. Humphrey Road connects to Humphrey Road connects Woodland Trace Lace with Houston Levy. It is a one-lane road measuring 15 feet. Now, I'm a fire inspector with the city, and apparatus access road is a minimum of 20 feet. Already, we don't meet that going forward. When this was built in the neighborhood, it was west of the area and not been developed. The adjacent neighborhood now uses Humphrey Road as a cut-through to Houston Levy, already increasing traffic on Humphrey beyond its original intent. Currently, bidirectional traffic forces one of the cars to pull off the road to allow another vehicle to pass. This happens every day. We have some pictures if you would like to see them. There are currently no stoplights at the intersection of Humphrey and Houston Levy. The egress for Humphrey is partially blinded and has been the site of several accidents. One of the neighbors will actually travel west through the new neighborhood to eventually turn south on Houston Levy due to the dangerous nature of this intersection. There are no sidewalks on Humphrey Road for people to walk along. When cars approach on this narrow road, pedestrians are put at risk, often forced to walk on the shoulders to assure their personal safety. Humphrey continues across Houston Levy, where it becomes a two-lane. There is a growing mosque on the eastern leg of Humphrey that utilizes Shelby County Sheriff's to control traffic. Again, this is a two-lane traffic area where the Shelby County deputies are used. Emergency vehicles would be unable to navigate the narrow streets during events by the proposed people, putting the population and the surrounding neighbors at risk should an emergency situation would come up. Existing commercial activity. Anchor Cottage, Anchor Academy currently operates on the property on the north side of Humphrey. This already creates traffic issues twice a day on 3 days per week for the 50-plus students currently enrolled based on the photos on their website.
Can I, real quick,
Sure.
whereabout is that on Humphreys? Or on
Whereabouts
Humphrey?
where?
The academy you just talked about.
Their academy is on the north side,
Uh-huh.
and it's approximately 300, 400 yards from where they're trying to propose the new theater, which is
Okay.
directly across from my house.
Gotcha. Perfect, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
It's fine. The proposed theater will be built on the south side of Humphrey and would result in children and their families crossing a very narrow road and walking alongside of the road when moving from one venue to the other. This is inherently dangerous. Per the Firefly website, there were 850 attendees at their 2024 music production, nearly triple the impact that the proposed 300-seat auditorium suggests. Certainly more than 75 parking spaces can accommodate. During the 2024 production, vehicles were parked in neighbors' yards without permission and on MLG&W's property across from Anchor. They also have a moving company that utilizes the property to park their trucks. We have pictures of that as well. I personally observed 2 at the same time. Some of my other neighbors have observed 3. Immediate neighbors have already complained about noise levels prior to productions, regularly hear music outside their homes due to loudspeakers on the outside of the buildings on school day afternoons, and have addressed the new owners with disregarded setbacks when constructing buildings along property lines. This does not directly relate to the proposed venue, but raises concerns for neighbors that there will be further infringement on their property rights. Finally, I'd like to address the uniqueness of this property. There are presently 41 plots in the city of Memphis that have 3 or more acres available for purchase. In Cordova alone, there are 15 such properties, undoubtedly more in Fayette County. What seems to make this plot unique is that it's located on an already congested one-lane road, which makes an unstable and unsafe for children's theater. They were speaking about closing the roads. Again, the road is already narrow. For firefighter apparatus to come through, we need a minimum of 20 feet. If they're closing it and they have cars parked on the roadway, which they have had, they have not closed the road though, it decreases it farther. Just think about it, if it was your home and your loved one was on that street and they had to be, the response was delayed due to all of the traffic in this neighborhood. Now, when we pull off the road, it's creating ruts on the side of the road. If a fire truck or an ambulance had to pull over because some young kid or older adult, whoever, didn't want to go over to the side and the fire truck needed to go, or the ambulance, they pulled over, hit one of those ruts, and got stuck or bottomed out. It's going to further delay the response to one of your loved ones should they live in their community. I know they brought a lot of people with them today. Those people do not live in that area. The people who came with me, we do. We have a noise complaint going on. I guess it's within the range that they're allowed, but it's very loud. It's disturbing. I think I'm not sure on this, but I heard that the schooling wasn't even properly permitted to be in that area. I'm not sure. We can do research on that. On a personal note, I've seen the owners of this property allowing people they allow their friends and or family, whatever, to infringe on all of the surrounding neighbors' property. We have a pond back there, and they're walking all around the pond, coming on private property. I've personally asked some of them to leave a couple of times. I've even had to call the Shelby County Sheriff's out to have them leave. This is a problem with me, because when I come home from work, I have 230-pound Rottweilers. I let them out. They see a face they don't know, they're going to charge them. They've also been hitting, there's a putting range about a mile from this facility. They've been hitting golf balls on all of our neighbors' property. It's total disregard. It's caused me, one of the golf balls has actually burst one of my windows on one of my vehicles. While I was cutting, I didn't see it. That's all I have right now. You have any questions for me?
Are there any questions for Mr. Neely? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nanny? Mr. Nanny, would you like to speak? Charlie Nanny? Yeah, okay. And we have just a little over 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
If you'll give your name and address for the record.
Sorry.
If you'll give your
Charles
name
Nanny,
and your address.
at 630 Woodland Trace Lane, Cordova.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Share with us.
Okay. Let's see. Basically, let me take a quick look at it. With everything that he said is true, and I agree with it. The Academy currently operates on property on the north side of Humphrey. It creates traffic issues 3 days a week. Theater would be built on the south side. Traffic between the two facilities would be dangerous. The Humphrey Road itself with two-car passing is dangerous. And when they have had activities there in the past few months, as many on their website as 850 people attended in a very small area by Humphrey Road with cars filling up the place, and we would expect that to continue if this is approved. We also have very loud music coming out from activities at the Academy itself, and we expect that at the theater as well, disturbing a very residential community. And so that is all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Nanny?
All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here that wants to speak in opposition? Okay. Yes, sir. We have like a minute left.
This will be quick.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, all of our neighbors, we bought our house in that area because it was a nice, quiet residential neighborhood. Now, the Wheatles are coming in and bringing these businesses. This is a residential neighborhood. We want to keep it residential. We want to keep our properties the way it is. The businesses coming in, this man said something earlier about there are a lot of businesses coming in on Humphrey. I beg to differ. On the area where we live, the only business is the one that they brought in. On the other side of Houston Levee, there are some businesses. There are churches and mosques. But where we live, strictly residential. And that's the way we want to keep it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to move back to rebuttal. And so we had 8 minutes. Yeah, 7 minutes, 50 seconds.
Can I pass these up?
Yes.
What I'm passing up there to you will show you the uses along Humphreys Road, addressing the comments that it's residential. And as you look at it, you'll see MLG&W has a facility. There are horse stables on there. There is a pet boarding place on there. There's an Airbnb. There's a homeschool. And then on the other side of Houston Levee, there's also a church and a mosque. So we heard a lot about the road and the concern about the road. And part of the reason that I'm handing you that is to point out that the road is not ideal. We're aware that the road is not ideal, but it is functioning and those things are happening. One of the concerns that the gentleman from the fire department had was that they would not be able to have access during performance nights. But during performance nights, under our proposal and the conditions that we're willing to have this board add, there wouldn't be anybody coming into the theater through Humphrey. They would be coming through the Heritage Baptist Church site. So we would not be impacting traffic on that road. We don't believe our impact on the road will be any more than what any of these others have at this time with the way that we're trying to structure this and with the agreement that Mr. Weddle has worked out with Heritage Baptist. There was also a concern about pedestrians coming across from where the school area is over to the theater, Mr. Weddle's indicated that would not be a case. They would not be walking across the road to get there. So that would not be an issue. And you heard a couple of times talking about 850 people there. And I don't know if that number is accurate or not, but under that circumstance, understand that they were doing a one-day event once a year. So that was so it was 850 spread over 3 days. So which about works with the size of our auditorium and the proposed parking that we have. Now I'm going to let Mr. Weddle finish his comments, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
I do, before I jump into what I've written as far as my rebuttal, I do want to just add that those pictures in the staff report were on May 9th with what's a Friday night. So it does seem like there are an influx of cars, and that is the case because on Thursday and Saturday it rained. And we are an outdoor production, and with the weather forecast, a lot of people did come out to see their kids on Friday night. So I did want to say that. We do have a 3-day annual production that has happened since 2021, and that was just happening because of COVID. And in 2023, I decided we need to establish a nonprofit to be able to raise money to be able to do this. In 2024, I decided, okay, absolutely, we need to move this. It has gotten up to 850 attendance. This needs to be in a properly zoned, enclosed area. So that is why I have filed this application in February of this year after I had my pre-app meeting with Lucas Skinner. I also do want to address the golf balls, the moving trucks. Grind City Moving, that is a company owned by my brother, and they are moving out on June 30th. Just like any small business, just like I'm trying to do, sometimes an Etsy shop starts in your house and then you buy a brick and mortar. Businesses, sometimes they do start in your residential area, and you have to decide after a year or however X amount of time that, okay, it is time that I move this out because this has to be in a properly zoned, properly done venue. So when I applied for this variance, I did so with excitement, energy, and faith that the stars had aligned. But in the months that followed, I also listened. Over the past several months, I've worked diligently to address every concern raised. When access on Humphrey was questioned, I initiated and received a written permission for an easement from Heritage Baptist Church, offering a safer alternative to North Houston Levee. When neighborhood concerns were raised, I hosted a meeting, though only one couple attended. And I still listened and I made adjustments. I acted upon the county engineer's comments with David. I submitted a thoughtful site plan that preserves the natural character of the land and ensured proper septic and storm water planning. And we moved the building back per feedback from the staff. While not in the application, I do want to identify a hardship that I believe is on this property. There is a long, narrow tract of land owned by the adjacent church, Heritage Baptist, that makes traditional residential or agricultural development impractical. This condition, outside of my control, further proves that this parcel is better suited for civic use. And under CA zoning, churches are already permitted by right. And those uses are typically far larger in footprint and impact than what we are proposing. In fact, the children's theater I envision is significantly less disruptive than many allowed uses, including churches, riding stables, and kennels, which often generate more noise, traffic, and infrastructure strain than a small part-time art space. And more than anything, I've shown that this community needs Firefly. There isn't a single dedicated children's theater that has a permanent space in all of Shelby County. Why can't we be the one? As nearby areas like Cordova, Arlington, Eads, Oakland, Germantown, and Collierville continue to grow, this remains a cultural gap. This isn't about profit. Firefly is a nonprofit. This isn't my occupation either. I am a full-time marketing director with 2 degrees in public relations, and I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Memphis. Go Tigers! But this is my passion. I believe I've addressed every concern in good faith, and I'm willing to move forward with this application today. However, despite remaining hopeful, I received the staff report only this past Friday, and as you know, they recommended rejection. While I genuinely don't understand why the primary concern is the road's narrowness, when per their directive, I secured ingress and egress with Heritage Baptist for performance mites, I do understand there are broader traffic concerns that play at play that may be affecting my application, and you heard a little bit about them. I mean, there are two additional access points to Humphrey Road, one from Walnut Grove, one from Houston Levy Road, and they are used frequently by surrounding neighborhoods, which Humphrey is not actually a part of. Humphrey Road is a narrow street. It's a rural connector lined with individual parcels, but it now bears the brunt of developments that have happened with Robert Eklund and the apartment complexes under construction around Grace Creek in the area. I agree. The increase in traffic in the last year has been striking, and it is only getting worse. All of this reinforces what the staff report already said, that the road in its current state is unsafe and unsuitable for increased use. That's why I'm so grateful for the ingress and egress agreement with Heritage Baptist, so we aren't increasing the likelihood of harm. I've lived on Humphrey Road for 8 years. I know its narrowness. Believe it or not, it's only a 0.4 mile stretch before it widens out after our property at 9920. I've seen delivery trucks struggle, emergency vehicles slow down, and the cars swerve to avoid each other. But what I didn't expect was that Shelby County Planning would put that in writing. And when I saw that word, injurious, I thought of my brother, Peyton. I wanted it to be known that I don't have any disregard for people being harmed. In 2016, Peyton Weddle, my brother, was killed in an accident just one road over on Pisgah Road. Since then, I've served on the Pay It Forward Foundation, which honors his memory by promoting kindness and road safety. I never thought that personal mission would intersect with Firefly until now. I know that this project may not move forward today. I'm young, I'm patient, and I believe that the best things are worth waiting and working for, and I remain deeply committed to building something lasting, responsible, and rooted in the community's needs.
The time, wrap it, the time.
Okay,
So
yep.
just kind of wrap
Yes,
it up. Yeah.
so I'll close with this. Whether the application is approved or denied today, either because I'm not a church or the road isn't wide enough, I plan to return to this stand with a renewed application. And I believe when that day comes, there will be no reason left to say no. Thank you for the care and consideration you've given this application, and I really think, I hope that you sit with it, and whether today brings a vote of approval or a longer path forward, I hope my students, who you see out here in the audience in Firefly shirts, see that setbacks aren't endings and that it's okay to dare to dream. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you said you have 3 annual things, and it's about 850 people, attendees for each one of those events?
Correct, and that has increased over the years. I mean, it started very small with parents and friends, but as parents have invited people, I've slowly started to realize, oh wow, this is a big thing that's turned into something, and that's why I established Firefly to do other things, and then now why I've pursued this application. And yes, it is the first weekend of May every year, outdoors, and that was born out of COVID. Originally, we were going to do it in a church, and in 2020, we could not. So we moved it outside.
Okay, thank you.
And that attendance is over a 3-day period.
Correct.
That's not 1 day of attendance, it's 3 days of attendance.
Yeah, over the 3-day event. Correct.
Y'all spoken to the church, that's all they're gonna give you. They won't give you any full-time access easement.
I have not spoken to them about that option.
Okay.
However, I didn't want to, I went to the church per the directive of the staff, the county engineer and David, who said, this would be great if you had ingress and egress with the church. So I went with them and got that agreement, but they were very clear that that was the permission that they wanted to give. And I believe that since they have other operations during those hours, that was why they were granting that permission, because of the school, because of other operations they do.
Thank you. Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So if we could get a motion, we're done with testimony. Thank you, though. A motion to approve BOA 2025-13 as conditioned by staff, and then we can discuss.
So moved.
Second. All right, any thoughts?
Yes, my biggest concern, I think, is, as has been mentioned, is the egress to Humphrey Road.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on that road. It's very narrow.
Yeah, I'd almost want to see, that's why I asked that question of,
Right.
can we get full-time access from the church?
The other issue I have is we're talking about taking this blank piece of land and building whatever we want to on it. If there was a abandoned church and we have this building, an abandoned church, and there's already basically a theater there, then I think I might finagle it a little bit more. But now we're just wanting to build something where like that use isn't allowed when there's, you could do something else with it that is allowed. So that's kind of where I'm getting stuck.
I'm also getting stuck on wonderful organization.
Sure.
And there's a reason why it's growing. May, as people who went to Beale Street Music Festival, rains a lot. And 858 people over a 3-day weekend on a muddy 2-lane street and growing. It's a concern, especially even though the days are longer, it overlaps into nighttime, which rainy, slippery, muddy. People walk into their cars, even if the event's over, they walk in the mud and 2-lane street. It's just the safety that I'm concerned with.
Also, I guess this should have been a question, but even when the church has its own events, and then they're having events, we have a lot of traffic there.
Right, and yeah, they don't coordinate. I mean, the church is the church.
Right.
And then,
Right. Separate.
they're separate entities. And, there's, once the permission's out there, it's grow to what?
Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right, Mr. Secretary, will you give us a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Claybrook,
No.
Ms. Skurlock,
No.
Mr. Love,
No.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
No, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 will not be met and the property will be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. We wish you the best of luck with what you're doing. It's just not a place we think we can approve it for. So, thank you all very much. Mr. Secretary, we call our next case.
Item number 2, BOA 2025-20 at 3485 Denver Street.
Okay, is the applicant present? Yeah. So I didn't see, is the applicant present for this? Okay, there you are, ma'am. Thank you. And then is there any opposition to this case here today? I don't think so. Okay. All right, ma'am, you can have a seat for a second.
Okay.
And then we're going to hear a staff report, and then we'll get you up. All right, if we could get a staff report, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Nabanita Nira with DPT, presenting the case BOA 2025-0020. The subject property is located at 3485 Mullen Road. The applicant is requesting a use variance to allow a group shelter with up to 12 residents. These are the location map and vicinity map. The subject property is located in residential single family 6 or R6 zoning district and currently used as multifamily. These are the site photo of the house from Denver Street. This is the site plan of the property. The site has approximate 3,300 square foot, 2-story house constructed in 1954 with 1 driveway access from Denver Road. According to the applicant, the site plan was approved. According to the applicant, the site plan was approved back in 2006 with 7 bedrooms and a loft. At that time, a certificate of occupancy was issued for 8 residents. The applicant proposed to convert the existing single occupancy rooms into double occupancy room and add 2 additional rooms. This would technically allow space for up to 14 residents, but the applicant has stated that the plan is to cap at 12 residents. The reason of this request, the use variance, is to fully utilize the building's maximum residential capacity. As I previously mentioned, a certificate of occupancy was issued for 8 residents. While the historical record does not specifically state the use, the 8 resident cap lines with either a supported living facility or a personal care home for elderly. Both of these uses are permitted use and both require a certificate of occupancy. However, supported living facility definition does not apply when the residence is operated on a commercial basis. The property is zoned R6, and according to UDC, group shelters fall under the category of social service institution. Group shelters are not allowed in R6 zoning district. Group shelters are considered institutional use, meaning they usually involves communal living, provide support service, and have a higher occupancy intensity compared to regular single-family homes. In conclusion, the group shelter is not allowed in R6. In this case, the applicant is currently operating an illegal group shelter at the subject property with 8 residents, as their operation does not qualify as a support living facility because they operate on a commercial basis. Staff recommend rejection. However, if approves, staff recommend the conditions. This is the end of staff presentation. Happy to answer any question.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go back to the, I'm sorry, yes, the group shelter. Now, is she applying for a group shelter or a group?
She's applying for a group shelter.
Okay.
This facility doesn't qualify for supportive living facility as it's operated in a commercial basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. If the applicant will come forward, and if you'll give your name and address for the record for us.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Garman Dukes. I live at 4800 State Line Road West, South Haven, Mississippi, 38671.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and share with us.
So my name is Suzanne Garman Dukes. I am the owner and administrator for Rehoboam Manicure Home. I have owned and operated this business since March 2014. I worked with the previous owner for 6 years, and including a third owner, we have served the elderly, disabled, veteran, and mentally challenged for more than 40 years in this location and community. We were formerly licensed as a residential home for the aged, but some things came up around the COVID time where I had planned to close, but opportunities presented itself for me to continue with the business. I'm simply trying to use the full capacity of the facility and grow my business. I was unexpectedly laid off from my corporate job in January 2025, but it afforded me the opportunity to focus full-time at my business and pursue opportunities to grow it. I am pursuing a licensure with the state of Tennessee for the mental health and substance abuse services. The increase from a current 8 occupancy to 12 will allow opportunity to grow the business. In June 2023, I started the process of finding another location and possibly building a new building in a different location. And we're still pursuing that on today. We've talked to multiple architects and even purchased a plan to have the architectural plans built. So I'm simply trying to grow the business. We're currently classified as an independent living facility, and we do provide supportive services to all of our residents. So are there any questions?
Are there any questions for the applicant? So I'm gonna go over again. Right now, by right, she can do exactly what she's doing in this building, correct? The 8 people?
Well, according to the letter of intent, they actually have 10 people right now. But
So
the by right option would be operating as a supportive living facility. You would operate as a nonprofit, and you could have up to 8
Okay.
residents.
And for-profit, it's just not allowed at all?
Correct.
Okay. Ma'am, go
So
ahead.
it's a cyclical business, so I only have 8 now. So since this process started, and I actually put the application in December 26th, I'm sorry, was it January of this year? But, right now I only have 8 people. But because I've lost one to needing more care, and another one just is due attrition, it's just a cyclical business. They're in and out all the time.
Okay.
So correct, your business is a for-profit. It's not operating as a not-for-profit.
No, it's not a nonprofit. So you don't know what you don't know till you don't know it. So through this process, I've learned that in the zoning limitations, but it has existed there for over 40 years, doing exactly what it's doing. Yes, sir. 40 years. So I've owned it since March 2014. I worked with the previous owner for 6 years, and there was another owner who had it for more than 20 years doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now. We were licensed under the residential home for the aged. I made the assumption that the original certificate of occupancy for 8 was due to this limitation, but this is new information around needing to be a nonprofit and all of that. That's new information to me.
So to touch on that, it sounds like the previous operator may have been operating as a personal care home for the elderly, which is also a permitted use in the residential, I believe it's 6 district. But that's essentially everyone's age 55 and over, and you are allowed to be for-profit. Just for clarity, are your residents all age 55 or over?
Yes.
Okay, so then it sounds like by right, she can operate as a nonprofit, as a for-profit with up to 8 individuals that are age 55 and over.
They're 55 or older.
Yes, falling under the personal care home for the elderly. I'm assuming there's no nurses, correct?
Assuming, I'm sorry.
You don't have skilled nurses or anything like
no,
that?
it's a
it sounds
non-skilled
like-
facility.
right.
It's really an independent living. We provide food, we do their washing and cleaning, but they have to carry out all of their activities of daily living on their own, and we keep their medications locked up, or they could keep them in their rooms. It's up to them, but it's pretty much independent living.
So there's 7 bedrooms.
It is 7 bedrooms and a loft. The full capacity, if I were to utilize the entire building, we could actually hold 14, but I'm only asking for 12 just to keep them comfortable.
How many bathrooms?
3,
Okay. And roughly average size of the bedrooms?
20 by 20s.
20 by 20s.
Yes, so I have 2 rooms that are 10 by 15, and the balance of them are 20 by 20s.
Okay.
The loft is actually bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
So the request would actually be a slight update now.
Okay.
The correct request should actually be a use variance from section 2.5.2 to allow a residential home for the elderly with a maximum of 12 residents. That is what she's actually requesting based on her testimony.
As far as the use that she's asking?
Correct.
Okay.
So would she need to amend her application to reflect the new ask? Because on record, we have a different variance, right?
It may be simpler to do that for y'all. That way we would have a staff report with the correct request, provided the additional information via the testimony we've received today.
Okay, so what we're saying, right? So if you were always going to keep 55 and up, then you're allowed by right to have the 8, which is good, because if you didn't have the 55 and up, you're not allowed to do it at all because you're for profit.
Gotcha.
So are you wanting to always be 55 and up, or are you trying to broaden that?
Well, with that new information, I would remain 55 and up. So with the licensures that I'm trying to pursue, it could be 18 or more. They could be 18 years old or more. But if the law says that I can only do up to 55, then I would stay with the 55.
Okay. And so what staff is saying, we may need to amend the staff report for what you're really trying to do.
Okay.
Okay. But we wouldn't be able to amend it now. We'd need to.
I mean, you could, but it might be complicated. You know, we would need to look at it based on the current use and provide analysis based on what the actual proposed use is.
Okay. So I guess what they're saying is, it may be if we held this case and looked at it from the new perspective of what it's doing, they may or may not, I'm not making the decision for what staff would suggest, it's less of an ask now than it was. You know, they initially said, what you're saying, this is like, there's too many hurdles for us to say there's no, and so they said to reject the case. They may or may not say to reject the case now, looking at it from the perspective of it being 55 and up, because really you're not asking for a total use variance, you're really asking for a person variance, the number of people.
Well, it would be a use variance. It's just the use is changing. Yeah, because it would be a residential home for the elderly.
Okay.
As the personal care home was the one allowed by right. We try not to give variance to the definitions, essentially.
Okay. So I'm also confused.
This is maybe why we should hold it so we can fully update the staff report based on the testimony provided with what she's requesting.
Okay. Does that make any sense to you, ma'am? It's okay to say no.
We're just asking for time because of the new testimony you provided. I think we all have a better understanding of what you're asking for the use of the property. And so we have one code from the initial, I guess, application and what staff thought you were trying to do with the property. And now that we have a better understanding, there's another code that we need to apply to your circumstances. And depending on if you're trying to expand the number, 55 and up, some things are done where you don't have to request a use, it's by right. If you're trying to expand that number from 8 to 12 or whatever that number, then we'll be back here, but we'll be under the right code, if that makes sense. Yes, ma'am.
So we would suggest a hold this month to come back with that amended ask.
And what action do I need to take to do that, or do we?
You will talk to, we would do a hold, and then you would work that out with staff, and we'd see you in a month.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So can we get a motion to hold agenda item number 2 for 30 days?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any opposition? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Next case, please.
Item number 3, BOA 2025-53 at 309 North McLean Boulevard.
Okay, is the applicant present? Yes. And then do we have any opposition here today? No, just the applicant. Okay. Ms. Christian, could you give us a staff report, please?
Good afternoon. I'm Chloe Christian with DPD. I'll be presenting case BOA 2025-0053. The applicant's representative is here with us today, and the property is located at 309 North McLean Boulevard. And this is a variance request to allow a circular driveway whose access points and vertex are less than 50 feet. Here's a location map and vicinity map of the property. It's located in the Midtown area. The property is currently zoned residential single-family 6. It's also within the historic district overlay. So there's a companion COA case that's going with this application to be reviewed tomorrow at Landmarks. Here's some current photos, or the most recent code enforcement photos of the property. The applicant started work without the proper permits to create this driveway. So this is a retroactive case. This is the site plan that we're reviewing today. As you can see, the proposed driveway is located to the eastern portion of the site. And ultimately, we do support this request. The vertex of the driveway is 27.6 feet from the right-of-way, and each curb cut is about 32 feet apart. However, this is not necessarily out of character for other properties on this street, as well as the fact that McLean Boulevard is an arterial road. It's a pretty busy street, so this would allow for safer entry and exit to the property. However, this parking spot that's on the site plan, we basically don't find that this is appropriate for the area or that there's any hardship or difficulty to justify approving this. So we recommend approval with conditions of the removal of this particular parking spot. This is a rendering provided by the applicant. In conclusion, as I stated, we do support this request due to the high volume of traffic on McLean Boulevard and the fact that other properties in the area also have circular driveways, such as 285 North McLean and 311 North McLean. However, we do request that the parking space in the front yard should be removed. And these are the conditions that we've placed on this request. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
So just so I understand, what staff is suggesting is we give a variance to allow the circular drive.
Yes, that's correct. A variance to allow the circular drive, but not to allow the parking bump out that's been proposed.
Okay. All right, any questions? All right, if the applicant will come forward. If you'll give your name and address for the record.
Ian Hunter, 490 Garland.
All right, if you'll, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Representing the applicant, just have a quick statement from him. Dear members of the board, we are writing to respectfully request approval of necessary driveway improvements at our residence located at 309 North McLean Boulevard in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. Structural safety and drainage driven necessity. This work is not strictly cosmetic in nature, but is a recommendation in response to crucial safety and infrastructure concerns. The home experienced major foundational movement when gutters were damaged during a 2023 storm, including 5 inches of shifting in our detached structure and over 3 inches in the main house. These issues were directly linked to poor site drainage and topography. These findings have been confined by 2 licensed engineers and independently by a licensed contractor specializing in foundation repair, circle driveway safety and access, in addition to the damage prevention achieved by redirecting runoff with this project. Driver safety will be improved. The goal of the circle is to allow residents and guests to safely enter and exit the property onto North McLean without having to reverse into the street. a maneuver that is especially dangerous given the volume and speed of traffic on this corridor. Moreover, due to clearance limitations of our historic, the porte-cochere, larger vehicles and SUVs and trucks are often unable to access the rear parking area. The parking slab ensures continued access to off-street parking for these vehicles without obstructing the second drive apron. Without this additional slab, any vehicle parked in front of the house would block others from entering and exiting the driveway, defeating the purpose of the circular layout and presenting an ongoing traffic hazard. Lastly, historic context and aesthetic consistency. The commissioner's concern for preserving the aesthetic and historical integrity of our district is valid. However, the Valentine Evergreen Historic District is known for its diverse architectural styles from the early 20th century and features numerous properties with similar driveway expansions, as mentioned. These include circular driveways and side parking pads, which were common in the 1920s and 30s to accommodate the increasing use of automobiles. Such features are evident throughout the country, reflecting the era's architectural and functional trends. Landscaping and green space preservation. Furthermore, the property will maintain a substantial amount of green space, exceeding that of many neighborhood lots, even with the proposed additions. The design ensures that the visual appeal and landscaping characteristics of the neighborhood are preserved while protecting the home from further deterioration due to shifting and improving driver safety. As the proposed concrete addition is both historically appropriate and structurally necessary, there seems to be no reasonable justification for the rejection of the engineer's proposed design. Therefore, we urge the commission to consider approval without condition 1. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Ryan and Justine Borden.
Are there any questions? I know one of the reasons they were asking for the variance was because of drainage. So we're wanting to add more impervious surface to help with drainage.
Yeah, let me see if we have some information. I don't see anything specific to that. I think the diagram that was up, he mentioned the arrows in the foundation assessment document indicate the water runoff idea. The proposed projection will help mitigate the problem but not completely solve it. A lot more concrete would be needed along the right side of the house to fix it, but that would not look historically accurate. That's all the information that I have. I apologize.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you know, do they have any problem with these conditions here? The no Airbnb in the front?
Yeah.
I'd heard the big issue is the parking pad, is what I'd heard, but I just want to make sure they were understood all those conditions.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay. If we could get a motion to approve BOA 2025-53 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, so if we vote yes, then they get the circle drive and the parking pad is not part of it, according to number 3. Okay, y'all ready to vote? Anybody have any? Okay, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Scurlock,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden,
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
and Chair Rainey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, it's been approved, but there's no parking pad. It's
Okay.
just
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, will you call our next case today?
Item number 5, BOA 2025-55 at 1629 Castalia Street.
Okay, is the applicant present? And then is there opposition? Okay, perfect. All right. This is the one, was this on consent last month, or did we actually hear it?
This one was on consent last month, and then it got pulled because of the opposition.
Gotcha, okay. All right, if we could get a brief staff report on this, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Nabanita with DPD, presenting the case BOA 2025. The subject property is located at 1629 Castalia Street. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow an impound lot in the employment district within 500 feet of residential use. This is the location map and vicinity map. The subject property is in EMP zoning district and currently used as industrial. The surrounding land uses are a mixture of industrial, single family, multifamily, and vacant. This is the aerial image of the property. These are the site photos of the property. The survey shows that the site has 11,000 square foot building and 13,000 square foot canopy area. The site has a chain link fence. The site has 2 entry exits from Castalia Street and Washaba Avenue. This is the proposed site plan. The applicant proposed to store all the vehicles under a metal canopy or inside their building. To mitigate any impact, they are also proposing to install 8 feet landscaping and remove the existing fencing and install new site-proofing fencing. In conclusion, the EMP zoning district allowed the storage of impound vehicle only if the lot is at least 500 feet away from any single-family residential use. The subject property is zoned EMP. However, there are many single-family residential use within the 500-foot radius. The current operation as an impound lot has been going on since 2015. The applicant is requested to legitimize the existing use so that the site can be added to the city impound lot rotation. The staff recommends approval with condition.
Okay. Are there any questions? So I understand that the applicant intends to have everything either in the building or under the canopy. Do we need to make that a condition, or is that already part of the site plan?
If you wanted to make sure it was strictly enforced, you could make it a condition. But the applicant has said that's the intent of their operation.
All right. Any other questions of staff? All right, we'll move to Mr. Bray. Why don't you? We've already sworn you in, so you're still sworn in. So you can go ahead and share with us. No, do we need it? Okay, no, we do not. Yeah. It is, okay. Okay, very good. So you're going to just hold?
Yes.
Hold, I mean, what do we, defer to the?
Defer, yes.
How about that? Yeah,
Don't say hold.
Yeah. Okay, I have a card here from Miss Katrina Taylor. Hey, how are you, ma'am?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great. If you'll give your name and address to the record, and I'll swear you in.
Katrina Taylor, 1642 Castalia.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, Miss Taylor, share with us.
So my mother here, who is actually my next door neighbor, plus various other neighbors have expressed concern. I believe last month, your staff member mentioned that multiple residents of the area submitted letters objecting to this plan. We object to this plan. We don't want it in front of our homes. So this entity, or whatever you want to call it, as far as I can see, is saying that it's been illegitimate since 2015, and now he wants to legitimize it and then put it in the rotation of the city's impound lot, where we are already in grievance of all kinds of activity and waste and blight all over our neighborhood, and we don't want anything else compounding our problems. If you pay attention to the pictures that were put up earlier, we're right next to a railroad crossing. So there's tons of noise all day, every day. I'm saying like 20 trains coming through, blaring through, all hours of the night, all through the day. And then to add this rotation in for the city to dump their trash here, and then to attract the negative attention from people trying to get their vehicles out of the impound lot, we don't need that trouble. We have enough. We have a problem with waste management, not even picking up our bulk trash. We haven't seen the bulk truck in months. Nothing's being done about that, but I'm pretty sure that this is gonna cause even more trash to just compound that problem as well. We don't need people from all over the city bringing their problems and their anger to our neighborhood. We already have poor, angry people in our neighborhood, knuckleheads all around the way, doing donuts in the streets and peeling off, and cops are doing nothing about it. So what I'm saying is, just whatever is going on right now, ideally, I would like it all to be raised down, turned into a green space. We've already lost our elementary school. We've lost our community center. The kids have nothing to do, but you want to put an impound lot right in front of our homes. And as far as it being within 500 feet, it's far more than within 500 feet. That building is 150 feet away from my bedroom. And I'm not even the closest house to it. Can you imagine the noise that's going on? We already have the train blaring all night. Then we have semi-trucks right now going in and out of the premises. And now you want to add record trucks on top of that. Every time they move, you hear the hydraulics going up and down and beeping every time they go in reverse. And then you have people who are apparently going to be arguing at some point with somebody right in front of our homes. And we're not going to have any idea who they are, but they're just going to be right in front of our homes at all times. We don't want any of this. We're concerned about our safety. We're trying our best to make things look better. We're cleaning up all around the neighborhood, but it is what it is. We're in an insufferable situation. We just can't take anything else.
Great. Are there any questions for the applicant? And you live at the corner of Goff?
Yes.
Castilian, okay. What's across the street from your house?
An abandoned building.
Okay.
Now, there are also people coming in and out, checking it out. I don't know what they plan to do with it.
Sure.
And again, that street, I think they're saying that that's 60 feet wide. That sounds about right. If you think about that, it's like one car parks on the street. There's barely room for another car to come through. I mean, there's room for one car to come through, but if two cars going different ways are trying to come through, that is an obstacle. So just imagine how close this building is to our homes.
Okay. Any other questions for the opposition? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then, ma'am, are you wanting to speak or just, you're here in support? Your neighbor, was she wanting to speak at all? Mom, okay, I'm sorry. You don't have to speak, but I didn't know if you wanted to. Okay, then we're gonna close opposition and we're gonna move back to the applicant now.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Go ahead, Mr. Bray.
Can we go back to page 5 of the staff report? There we go. With the zoning map, actually, you can look at either one, the zoning map or the land use map, and it's detailed in the staff report. This is an unusual situation. I'm not sure of another area in town where the EMP zoning touches single-family residential the way it does here. So it is odd. We're trying to make the best of the situation. You know, the underlying zoning is EMP, so there are a lot of uses that we could go through in the use chart that would be permissible by right here. We're trying to dress it up. Can you go back to the one that has the site photos? As you can see, I mean, right now you got a chain link fence out to the right of way and absolutely zero landscaping. If you flip over to the site plan, we're going to take out the first 8 feet of paving where it's paved, move the fencing back, put up a fence that's in compliance with the UDC, and add landscaping in there. That's not going to solve all the issues that she addressed. I certainly understand that, but it will be an improvement from what's there today. Again, we're in agreement with conditions of the staff, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
So if the city was to approve this as a lot, like what cars are getting towed here? It can't have inoperable. So
Correct.
Who's getting towed to these locations? For this location?
I would have to have Mr. Rowland here to answer that. I know there's different classifications on whether or not they're inoperable or operable. It could be vehicles that are towed for improper places, so probably not the wreck victims, but in the other cases that the city is towing. I guess it could also include minor wrecks.
Say that again.
I guess it could also include minor wrecks, but you're not going to get the ones that are just completely destroyed and have to be hauled out on a flatbed.
Okay. Other questions? Oh. Can we look at the site plan again real quick? I'm just reading the notes, remove 8 foot of paving for landscape. Is that, so I'm assuming that's the dark line? Is that the landscaping line? Like
Yeah, that's actually a row of shrubs that would go in front of the fencing and then also trees.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me ask this, what kind of other uses, this is anybody really, could be allowed there with this like current structure that aren't impound?
Let's see. So this is zoned employment. So a sampling of uses allowed by right are clothing, textile, apparel manufacturing, contractor storage, lawn, tree, or garden service, light manufacturing of equipment, instruments, and goods, lumberyard, photo finishing laboratory, let's see what's over here, microbrewery, leather and leather products, except tanning and finishing.
Yeah.
Repair of scientific or professional instruments, electric motors, sheet metal shop, soft drink bottle, a numerous amount of uses.
Right.
Go on for a while.
Okay. And then can we go back to our conditions again? And we don't have a definition for sure of what an operable vehicle is.
I don't think the UDC defines it, but so it would fall just to the general definition from a dictionary. Basically, you should be able to drive it, essentially.
Right. I'm looking it up. See if we can get what the internet tells us. Yeah, cannot be legally driven on public roads due to its condition. Can't start or move under its own power. Okay. All right, any other questions of the applicant or staff? Okay, thank you very much. If we could get a motion to approve. Okay, go for it.
May I add one more thing?
Do we want to hear from the opposition? Okay, everybody want to hear from the opposition real quick? Or no, all five would have to agree to reopen that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question.
Okay.
Can I go back to the opposition for a question? And then if she wants to elaborate after that question.
I think we still have to vote for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll vote yes, so you can
We
answer
have
this question.
3 yeses. What about y'all?
Yeah, that's
Carson? Yeah, okay, go ahead, Nick. You can come up.
I just wanted to share these photos. I forgot to bring it up. Is there a way to get this to them?
Physically, I don't think that thing works, does it?
I just wanted you to zoom in on that, if you could. Because I don't know how old the pictures are that he showed you, but that is today's photo with all of the trucks and the abandoned vehicles that are currently there now. And I just wanted to clarify your image of what it's looking like from our homes.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Greg, did you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, can I ask you, I don't know, could you give us an idea of the frequency of kind of the in and out, how many cars you see towed?
Oh, well, I mean, the cars are all day and night, but as far as who's exactly going over there, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, my thoughts are that if a reason, or part of the motivation for this application is to get on the city's list to be able to impound cars that the city dispatches, that's going to likely increase the business here.
I mean, one would not be spending time and money to decrease business, right?
So, you know, that concerns me.
Yeah.
Are we able to?
Mr. Chairman, we do need to allow the applicant.
Oh,
equal-
I am. Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
Just wanted to
Yes.
make sure.
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm trying to determine, they're just proposing, right? We don't have an actual contract with the
They
city.
can't get a contract with the city if they're not actually approved to do the business. Yeah. Any other questions before we go back to the applicant? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bray, if you want to add something.
I didn't see the photos, but whatever the issue is with the current vehicles on there, as I said before, we're in agreement with the conditions, and if inoperable vehicles have to be removed, that's not a problem.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right.
Just one more question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go for it.
So currently, and this is for staff, so currently, as the application is operating, are they legal?
That would depend on if there are inoperable vehicles on the site. Because essentially, if say AAA says, can you tow this person's car? As long as it's an operable vehicle, they can bring them there and store it at their facility overnight, maybe before they go to take it to the repair shop when it opens in the morning.
So the only,
Or I guess parking, if you need to tow cars related to people who have parked illegally, as long as they're operable vehicles.
so the change would be, well, right now, what's outstanding is the inoperable cars. That's one.
But even if this was approved, there's still no inoperable vehicles to be allowed. But I guess the difference may be if you're on the city's list, like say you were pulled over because your car wasn't registered, so they're not going to give it back to you, but you're not calling anyone by choice to bring your car there. So I guess you're impounding the vehicle from them. It's
Right.
not.
But they can continue to operate today.
Yeah, although I guess now, realizing what I've said, the example of the parking, they couldn't bring someone who parked illegally there, like even if it was on a private thing, because you're technically impounding their vehicle. So it'd have to be someone who's like, hey, I don't know, something happened to my car, and maybe it's just overnight before it's taken to the shop in the morning. But so they have to be asking you. Yes.
Yeah, as opposed to I did something wrong or something happened.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions before we discuss? All right, if we can get a motion to approve BOA 2025-55 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Thoughts?
Initial thought is, what happens if we vote no? They're zoned for this, but they're not operating legally. What?
If we vote no, they can continue to have cars there and tow it to store some cars, operable vehicles. But I guess the difference is you're not showing up because you got a parking ticket and got your car towed, or you're not showing up to go get your car back, because they took it, the police took it, but like they're the ones that are giving it back or whatever. It would be it's just a fully voluntary, it's a service they're providing for you as opposed to your car's been impounded.
Right. In other words, they're legal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unfortunate zoning that they're allowing a right and saying you can't do this right within 500 feet of the home, because then they have homes right next to. They're not compatible uses. It's like a zone for incompatible use, bothering the neighbors. And then you tell them they can do it legally, but then the neighbors are still impacted.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Right.
Mr. Love.
Thank you. Yeah, I concur with my colleague. That happens sometimes. A street separates different zoning districts, and sometimes they do kind of conflict like that. My concern with this, and that's no fault of the applicant or the residents. That's just there has to be a line somewhere. But my concern with this is if we support this application, I think that it will increase the intensity of the use, and I think it ramps it up a level. Not only will there be an additional influx of customers, for lack of a better word, but also I think the spirit of the interaction is going to be different. We had residents say, people are going to be coming there against what they would want to do. I don't know if that would result in any change in the discourse outside of an office or that kind of thing. But to me that's certainly intensifying the land use.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. What I'm trying to weigh a little bit is the increased intensity, yet our ability to somewhat control what the site looks like. And those are like almost like the competing issues. Like, well, now we can get a fence, we can get landscaping, we can get that, but it absolutely is a more intense use.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was my concern too. If you say, yes, we could also include maybe sound barriers and landscaping, something to protect the neighbors, but the volume, and the impound lot, I think of someone who maybe had their car taken because of DUI. So they're not happy coming back to get
Right.
and then too, you don't know for how long. And just
Traffic.
just the traffic, yeah.
okay, we're already in discussion. Yeah, thank you, though. Okay. I kind of feel I know where this is heading. If it's not heading there, I would like to add some more conditions, but I don't know if those conditions change the way I'm going to vote. So I don't know that I want to necessarily start doing that.
Me and you in the same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly, because it's a legitimate neighborhood.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, okay.
It's catch-22.
Jeffrey, you give us a roll call, please?
Mr. Love,
No.
Ms. Scurlock,
no.
Mr. Claybrook,
No.
Vice Chair Savage Selden,
No, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 will not be met and will be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
and Chair Rainey.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay. Motion fails. If we can call our next case, please.
Item number 6, BOA 2025-58 at 1936 The Elms Avenue.
Okay. And I believe we started this one, we heard some of this last month, I believe. Okay, perfect. All right, is the applicant here? Yeah, okay, thank you. And then is there any opposition today? Okay. All right, Ms. Nuri, if you could give us just an update or a short staff report. I think most of us were here last month to remember this one.
Good afternoon again. The applicant, I'm presenting the case BOA 2025-0058. The applicant is requesting to allow a group daycare home, 5 to 12 person on a minor street, more than 150 feet of the intersecting arterial. So these are the site photos that applicant submitted. The proposed site plan. The MPO functional classification map shows that the avenue is a minor street, approximately 2,297 feet from the nearest arterial intersection. According to the UDC, group daycare home must be on a arterial or connector street, or a minor street serving only non-residential uses, or a minor street within 150 feet of an arterial intersection. The property does not meet any of these criteria. If the variance is approved, the applicant still required to obtain a special use permit. Additionally, the facility would need to be approved by fire safety and environmental inspector before it can begin operating. The applicant has already received approval from the Tennessee State Fire Prevention for 12 children. The applicant has not shown any hardship or practical difficulty to justify the variance. Their only reason is to expand the business by carrying more children, which does not meet the requirement for approving a variance. The staff recommend rejection. However, if approved, the staff recommend the conditions.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? I got one quick question. I think I ask it all the time. They never remember exactly the answer. Arterial streets are those that you, like the UDC specifically says, this is an arterial street. Right, there's like a list, not like or is there a definition?
There is a list. The UDC refers to the Memphis Metropolitan Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan. And they have a list of which streets are specifically defined as arterials, collectors, and highways, local streets as well.
So you got collectors are bigger, and then arterial? And then minor?
Arterial's the biggest, well, other than closed access highways. Then arterials are the biggest, then collectors, and then local streets or minor streets are basically everything not classified as something else. Now you'll see more in there so the UDC kind of has just those real three, but in the MPO they break down minor collector, major collector, minor arterial, major arterial, and then they have rural versus urban. So they get a lot more specific, but the UDC just has the three basic ones.
Okay. Let me ask it one more question and get the name of the street. If I gave you a street, could you tell me if it's arterial or not? Is there a way to look that up?
Yes.
And sorry, my map is doing weird stuff real quick. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Is it Poplar?
Yes, it is.
I'm glad Greg's here. I'm trying to get the name of this street. They're not showing me street names. Let me change my layers. I'm sorry. Whitney.
Whitney? What's an intersection or?
Whitney would intersect Watkins. Not too far from there. It also intersects Overton Crossing. This would be just north of the subject site.
Okay, so at that intersection, Watkins is considered a minor arterial, and Whitney is a major collector.
And which is bigger?
The arterial.
Arterial is bigger than collector. Okay. And then, okay, I guess the only other thing I'd want to see is go back on your staff report. You had the definition that had like the 150 feet, of the items. That one, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, any other questions of staff? Okay, if the applicant will come forward, and if you'll give your name and address for the record again.
My name is Dorothy Bailey, and my address is 1936 Ames Avenue, Memphis, Tennessee, 38127.
Okay, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so you got?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and talk to us.
I'm new to this. I don't know nothing about the streets and stuff like that.
Right, that's fine.
But the home is not located on a busy street, Overton Crossing. It's like it's a field, and then it's the house. Like I said before, code and zoning approved me to keep up to 7. I'm asking just for 5 more. I showed her the pictures of the inside of the home where each room will have at least 4 children, and each classroom will have a teacher with them. There was more pictures. I guess she didn't show them. That's the infant room. They will have 4 infants if I get 4 infants. Most of the time, I don't always get 4 infants, but they'll have their own teacher. There's another classroom that will have 4 kids with their own teacher. I'm just asking for 5 more children. That's it.
Okay. Can somebody on the staff remind me what was the issue? Why did we decide to hold last week? Like, what was our information that came that made us like not want to know a little bit more?
So last month, we thought it was a child care center because I think it had, we thought it was 13 plus kids, but then it turned out it was, I think, 12 kids and 3
That's right. Okay.
employees, caretakers.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any opposition to this case today? All right, so if we can get a motion to approve BOA 2025-58 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any thoughts?
I have a couple thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
So, and this is for staff. Can you all tell me what you think the intent of requiring the distance between the land use and the road type? Is it because of increased, or is it because of the generation of traffic? Would that be the?
Yes, that seems like the most logical one, right? So essentially, if it's on a minor street that didn't serve any residential uses, it would be okay, because then it's, it's assuming it's more of a commercial area, so increasing traffic, even though it's a minor street, not that big of a deal. Obviously, right, it also, I think, allows it if it's on a collector, because then it's assuming, well, that street already has more traffic on it, so it's not out of the ordinary. But now it does allow the minor street, if it serves residential uses, if it's in 100 feet of an intersecting arterial, and I think that's assuming, like, if you think in Midtown, if you just happen to be close to Poplar Avenue, you're just off of it. Well, there's already a lot of traffic there anyway.
Right. And right now, the subject site is how far from? I think you have it.
From the intersecting arterial, it's approximately 2,297 feet.
But
that's as measured along the most direct roadway route.
Right. But we're not thinking that requirement is safety related. We're thinking that it's more of a traffic volume issue.
Correct. That would be my assumption, although I do not know the minds of
Sure. Just your
our
interpretation.
legislative bodies when they.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I keep asking a lot of questions about these streets because I'm familiar with the area enough to know how big of a street Overend Crossing is. I mean, it's a 4-lane street that just, it doesn't have a lot of traffic on it. It's actually kind of overbuilt for what goes on there. Like, I've never really been on it and been passed by many people when I've been on it. And this is not within 150 feet of that. But it's only 2 driveways away from it. Like, there's that kind of wooded area that looks like, it could be built into houses at some point, but there must be something going on with it because it is separate tax parcels, but it's just a bunch of trees. So when I see this, it looks pretty close to a major road to me. And using the definition, we're not using the UDC's definition. It's not too far out of the way. It's not in the middle of a neighborhood where you got to go around 6 corners to get out of Countrywood, to meander out finally to even get on Rock Creek Parkway or something. So that's why I keep asking about the roads and where the definitions come from. Is it a width? Is it whatever? And it sounds like it's what they've defined it as by someone else as opposed to a 4-lane road, which makes more sense in my head. So I think I would be willing to, that this wouldn't be injurious to the area. And that's kind of my thought on it. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, do some sort of sunset where, hey, we approve it for 2 years, have her come back, and if nobody's complained by then it's a full approval. It's kind of, that's one thing I'm thinking if y'all wanted to do something like that.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and she still has to get the child care center approved by January, so it could be that they don't approve it either.
Right.
But it definitely seems not too far out of the way in this little nook of a neighborhood, So I would like to add an amendment or a condition that this variance will sunset in 24 months. And so, ma'am, what that means, if this goes through, you're approved by us for 2 years. So in those 2 years, you can operate with the 12 children and stuff like that. After 2 years, if you still want to use that site, you'd need to come back and get a variance again. And so that would give us the opportunity, like if there were some neighbors that didn't like what happened there, they could come in and say, yeah, this has been a disaster. There's, toys in the front yard and cars parked in my yard dropping off kids. It just gives an opportunity to like, okay, we don't think it's going to be injurious, but we want to take another look in 2 years.
Okay.
So just wanted you to know, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, and so can we add that amended condition without any opposition?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if you'll give us a roll call vote, please, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Skurlock,
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 will be met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, you've been approved. Good luck with the next steps. All right. All right. Mr. Secretary, will you call our next case, please?
Item number 4, BOA 2025-67 at 75 North Rembert Street.
4 or 14?
Sorry, 14.
I was like, ooh,
I called the right numbers, but
we are going
the
backwards.
wrong item number.
All right, so I see the applicants here, and I believe we have some opposition on this case. Yes. Okay, so y'all can all kind of come to the front if you want to. We're going to do a staff report, and then we'll hear from the applicants in the opposition. All right, let's see. Get my computer working. All right, if we could get a staff report, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Truce Abuosi with DPD. I'm presenting on BOA 2025-67. It's located at 75 North Rembert Street, and they are requesting for a variance from Section 3.7.2 to allow a large home with 4 dwelling units on a lot less than 8,000 square feet, and Chapter 3.4 to allow the large home to look more like a duplex. So this is the vicinity map. It's located around Midtown, and yes, the location. And it is zoned RU3 and the land use map. So these are the site photos. The place is currently vacant. And this is a plot with proposed improvements. So they are going to add parking, and the surrounding area is in the multi-family zoning. And this is the site plan. So the applicants meet the 50 feet requirement. Their problem is that the lot size is 6,750, but the UDC requires 8,000 square feet. So this is their elevation. They want a large home, but to look like a duplex. And the applicants provided photos as exhibits to show that in the surrounding neighborhood, it is allowed, and there have been previous cases approved in context of this. So the large home is a permitted use in the area, and the surrounding neighborhood contains a mixture of residential housing types, including residential family detached homes, single family attached homes, large homes, stack houses. So it's allowed in the area, and though the UDC doesn't require a large home to look like that, within the surrounding area that is already there. So we think it will not cause or it will not change the character of the neighborhood. And so staff recommends approval. Thank you. Ready to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? And we don't have a map or anything that shows where the other large homes are, do we?
It is on page 8 of the staff report. Well, that will essentially show you where the multifamily is.
Okay.
So just south of the star, it shows us a single family, but those are actually all on one lot. So those are classified as apartments.
Okay.
And I believe the large homes are the two directly across the street, but the applicant may be able to verify that.
Okay. Perfect. If the applicant will come forward, you'll give your name and address. Yeah, you've done it before.
She's like, don't do that. Okay. Josh Whitehead, 275 Jefferson Avenue, 38103. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague, Mr. Mikic, has a handout that addresses one of the comments made by a neighbor that's found at the end of your staff report, but I'm also joined by Dustin Hamilton, my client, and Maria Tomic, who's our contractor. This letter from Maria, our contractor again, responds to Mr. Gordon, Mr. Robert Gordon's comments about the drainage at the site. We are planning to grade the lot towards the street. There is a drainage inlet adjacent to our site in front of the property next door. So the current, the alleged flood issue that is occurring there will be largely solved by that amelioration. We have photographs. This letter makes mention to photographs. We have that if you'd like to see it. But I think what I'd like to do at this point, Mr. Chairman, is hand the floor over to our neighbors so we can be responsive to some of their comments.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant before we move forward? I got a couple questions real quick, I guess. So can you give us like square footage, number of bedrooms, that kind of stuff going on in this particular property?
The staff report, we have a site plan that was mentioned that's on page 13, but on pages 15 and 16, we have the floor plans. So each unit would have 2 bedrooms. And by the time you see me next, I can provide you square footage, total square footage.
Okay, that works. All right, so we're going to move on to the opposition real quick. I guess we can, Ms. Thomas, would you like to come up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, you'll give your name and address for the record for us.
Sure. My name is Sarah Thomas. I'm a homeowner at 94 North Rembert Street.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sure do.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
All right. So, with all due respect, I'm here and not any concern for the profit to be pocketed from these apartments, but for the health and protecting the charm of Midtown neighborhoods and the homeowners that pay our taxes every year to live in Memphis. This building is comparing itself to the white building. If you want to refer back to the photo that shows the 2 big structures already existing, that was actually 2 lots originally. That white building took over a duplex and another house was next to it. So there's 3 homes. So that's a larger square footage, first of all, that this house is than what we're talking about here. They're dealing with a smaller amount of square footage. And I'm here to oppose any kind of changes to what is there to protect us homeowners from invasive construction in the first place. There is a home, a nurse from St. Jude lives in a private residence right next door. Whether they're apartments or not, it is surrounded by backyards of people who have children. This building is completely, in my opinion, too invasive to the privacy of people who are on the street. It's unnecessarily big for the amount of lot it has, and setting an example here would send a really great message to the people who own homes in these areas that we're not going to allow massive construction override the comfort that we have here on our streets. Noise, parking, constant influx of people in and out. This is not a home. Like you said, this is going to be a 4-unit building that's going to be overlooking these people's property. Imagine your house, right? You have your backyard, and one day you go out to your backyard and you've got a big 2-story apartment building. Every year, new people moving in, coming out. Who knows what they're doing? Who knows how many people live in each one of these expensive apartments? Because they're not cheap in Midtown. We all know what Brent's doing. Cars, how many cars do they have? They do build parking lots because they have to, because of code, but they build them in such small places that nobody can easily get in and out of them, so nobody uses them. Like I said, comparing these constructions across the street to what he's doing is, to me, different. First of all, this was a different square footage and a different area altogether. Like I said, you can't really tell from the photographs, but it's a very small lot that this man wants to build this apartment complex on. And I just want to keep stressing, it's not a large house. It is an apartment complex. And I'm just hoping that you will help us preserve some sanity within our neighborhoods in Midtown. I understand development is important, but I think there's a fine line between creating tourism through the charm and the essence of what Midtown is, and not swallowing that up into a situation where all of that is erased and gone. We need to be here to protect the people who own homes, not just provide apartment rentals for people coming and going. There's lots of spaces with adequate room in which Mr. Whitehead could build his apartment complex. I've asked him kindly if he would consider a duplex, a 1-unit, perhaps a 1-story duplex. He's not interested in that. Why? Because of the profit he can make off of it. And unfortunately, I don't believe he has the best interest of anyone on the street in mind. Oftentimes, once they build these apartments, they never deal with the repercussions of anything that happens, whether it be trash on the street, whether it be people moving in and out, leaving heaps of their mess on the street that stays there, whether it's an uptake of traffic and noise. But this is incredibly too small of a lot for what this particular man is proposing. So I'm asking to reject his, I guess what he's asking for is a variance in the code that's already there. I'm asking you to please reject that. Thank you.
Yeah, hold on one second, just real quick. Are there any questions for Ms. Thomas? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, would Mr. Green like to speak?
Hello, my name is Jeff Green, and I live at 88 North Rembert Street.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I am a resident of Tucker Jefferson Neighborhood Association. I moved onto Rembert Street 36 years ago, and I was drawn by the charm of the neighborhood and the historic houses. I live in a little shotgun house just one door north of the Blue House in the picture there. And the reason I moved into the neighborhood was the historic and the charm of the neighborhood. We had a wide diversity of art students, elderly people, and young professionals, and just a good mix of Midtown people. And so over the last, we had 0 iron gates with secure parking behind them when I moved there. Now I can count about 8 properties around there that have that. And to me, I understand why it's sustainable and why people want to live in Midtown because of the charm of it. But personally, if you want to move in and build an iron gate around your property, that's not really becoming part of the community. That's sort of isolating yourself and putting out a perception of fear of crime and theft. And so I'm against the enclosed parking, which we already don't have enough of on Rembert Street because several of the houses don't even have driveways. So as they build these big things with these big, huge parking lots in the back, it generates more runoff, which makes our flooding and drainage more of a problem. And people don't use the back parking lots anyway. They just park on the street. So the site where this is proposed was a large duplex. Originally, 2 families living there. In the whole time that I lived there, 1 family lived there. And so I'm just against this type of project going on right across the street from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Green? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, the applicant, if you want to.
Before we go back to the applicant, okay, I have a slight clarification to my earlier testimony.
Okay.
Apparently, the tan structure there is a duplex, and the white structure appears to be a stacked townhouse. Essentially, it is 4 units, but they have a lot line down the middle.
They have a what?
A lot line down the middle, like a parcel line.
Oh, so you like the white structure is a townhouse with like a townhouse duplex. Does that make sense? The white is 2 different.
Yeah, there's 4 units essentially. Like there's 2 on the bottom floor, 2 on the top. The UDC calls it a stacked townhouse.
Gotcha. Okay, stacked townhouse. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
But they're on 2 separate tax parcels, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
There's only 1 front door per tax parcel on the white structure.
Yes, I believe we can see the one, and then I believe just to the north of that, there's one kind of facing the south.
Right. Okay. All right. If the applicant would like to come back up. Yeah, you want to say your name and address for the record?
Maria Tomic, 4370 Summers Place, Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
I
God?
do.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I just wanted to clarify a little bit about the construction cost. If we were able to, we would much, thank you. Sorry. We would much rather do a duplex. We wouldn't have to deal with a sprinkler system, IBC. It would be cheaper permits. It would make more sense for us, an easier thing to do, less of a hassle, but it would have been a complete loss. There is no way to even break even at a duplex in this location. The White House in question is the same width as our lot, but our lot is actually longer at the back. So if they were at some point 2 lots, the width now is exactly the same to where we are planning to build. The only thing that since also we wouldn't have to get your approval if we wanted to do a duplex, and this way we can adjust any elevations that you consider looking at different at the front. And the 4plexes are generally approved in this area. We just ask for some minor variances, but we're flexible on accommodating any of the requests and make everybody, as happy as possible on that part. And I think for the drainage, we cleared it out with a letter explaining that the puddles are created because the house was demoed about a year ago, and there was a big storm. So that's always going to have to be fixed one way or another, and that's not going to cause any issues. Okay. So we're going to just build what's across the street, but better. Okay. And that's it.
Josh Whitehead again, 275 Jefferson. Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, to close out, you asked the question about the property across the street. It is a shallower lot. It has the same width as ours, but we have about 20 or so further feet in our rear, number one. Number two, its units, according to the Board of Adjustment staff report, they are online and they stay online forever. So I just looked it up. Those were 1,200 square feet apiece. Ours will be 1,000 square feet apiece. So our building will actually be smaller than that white building and on a larger lot. And I'm going to reference that photograph in a moment, but very quickly, going back to some of the points that the neighbors made, we do share the concern about privacy in rear yards. If you look at that aerial on the right, we are surrounded by multifamily. Those 4 units in the front along Jefferson are multifamily. There's a maybe 1950s, early 1960s building to our west. So I believe the real privacy concern will be to the single family to our north. It's slightly beige in this photograph. We do not have any windows on our back, our rear, our west facade. And when it comes to how our building aligns with that building, our staff report is on our site plan is on page 12 of our staff report. It's a little misleading. It shows that our building goes a little further westward into the rear yard than our property, our friends to the north. But actually, what we failed to include on that site plan was their back house. They have a fairly large back house. So there's going to be no conflict there will be no view shed from our northern units into any adjacent rear yard. We have a housing crisis in this city, as you probably know, and that is reflected in the rising prices. Part of the way to address that housing crisis, there's a big news, of course, as of yesterday. The City Council passed a Homestead Act, which will help get some of the lots that are on the register built upon. But the other thing, which will help the housing supply, but also utilizing multifamily zoning. I think part of the housing crisis in Memphis is due to the fact that we have so much single-family housing, including in Midtown. I live in a single-family zoning district, but apparently my district allowed duplexes because I have one next door, one across the street, a multifamily catty corner. So, but all of those are, as they say, grandfathered in. That whole district is barred from any new multifamily. Whereas this is our RU3. It's one of our more intense multifamily zoning districts. And so development and infill and housing supply will naturally be drawn to this corridor. This corridor generally in Midtown is between Poplar and Union out to the viaduct. If this were a duplex, and this is the reference I was going to make to that building on the left, this would be a by right use. And I think there's some benefit of going through the variance process because in many ways this body acts as a design review board. When it grants variances, it can place conditions on those variances. That duplex, and there's a mirror duplex just like it, maybe 4 or 5 buildings to the north, were by right and so had no conditions, and I would admit it's aesthetically less pleasing than the one next to it that actually went to the Board of Adjustment in white. So on that point, we have one condition that's in your staff report. It's kind of the boilerplate condition. We shall adhere to the site plan. But I would like to offer a few more conditions that I think will help address some of the comments we've heard and the comments that are in your staff report. Number one, we would like to condition this approval to the elevation we submitted. In other words, we can't change this elevation in any shape or form other than condition number 2. We would like to make this look more single family. We appreciate the fact that a large house, a multifamily building up to 6 units probably should be designed to look like a large house, a house. So we're offering to go to one front door, and from that front door you would enter into a vestibule to enter into the individual units. Number 3, we would like to grade the lot to the street, as I said, to address the water standing concerns on the site. Number 3, we'd like to put a fence along the north side There's pretty good fencing on the west and the south sides, but we do admit we need a new fence, a fence at all on the north side. And finally, to the last comment heard on the side of the opposition, we do not want this to appear gated and be gated, so we would happily forego any future permission that we would receive for a front yard fence. So we do not want it to be gated. We want it to be open to the neighborhood. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm available for any questions, as is my client and our contractor.
All right, are there any questions?
I have one question.
Okay.
Mr. Whitehead, so would it be fair to say that you're no longer requesting the variance to Chapter 3.4 to allow the large home to look more like a duplex?
Well, does a large home require two front doors?
I guess in theory, the large home should have one front door.
Okay, then maybe we should have always had one door. Okay. We wanted to go down to one door.
Okay. So what you're saying, Mr. Secretary, if there is only going to be one door, we don't need
the second variance request, it sounds like. It sounds
Chapter
like they're
3.0.
willing to make it look like what the large home should look like based on the
So we'd
conditions
only
that
be
they
doing the
just
variance for
proposed.
chapter 3.7.2.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless the applicant has anything they'd like to say.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant?
Just for point of clarity, so we're saying they're building a large home and not a multifamily unit? No, it is a multifamily. Is it?
Please don't speak from the floor.
I'm just trying to get clarity on, I guess, our definitions of what a large home is versus a multi.
Right, so a large home is a type of multifamily.
Okay.
Again, the property is zoned RU3, so the use is actually allowed.
Yeah. Okay. I think the idea of it, it's a type of multifamily called a large home because it looks like from the front, it's one house by having that one door.
Gotcha, and it's on a lot less than 8,000.
Yeah.
That's
really
what we're.
just the lot
issue.
size.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, any other questions?
I do have a question. The parking, I noticed there are 4 spots in the back. Is that a part of the, sorry, the parking, I noticed there's only 4 spots in the back. Aren't there supposed to be like 1 spot per bedroom or something like that?
They've not requested a variance related to the parking, so I'm assuming they can meet the minimum parking requirements.
Well, please look it up, Mr. Secretary. But I believe I have looked it up and hopefully will be corroborated. With this zoning district, we're required to have 1.5 spaces per 2-bedroom unit. That would be 6 spaces. And we're allowed, since we have a 50-foot lot, we're allowed to count the 2 on-street spaces along the street towards that 6. And I believe, actually, we asked, our original plans did have 4 spaces, but actually we increased it to 5. Okay, so we,
5 spaces. Well, handicap, right. He counts.
Okay, any other questions?
Jim.
Are we waiting on verification on the parking?
He is correct.
Okay. All right, real quick, so are we wanting to hear any more testimony from the applicant or the opposition? So we've already moved past, we have to vote if we're gonna go backwards.
I thought we have 10 minutes to speak, or?
The way it works is you get your 10 minutes, but then once it goes back, I'm like, you don't have all the time.
10 minutes?
You had 10 minutes.
Oh, I didn't.
You used most of the 10 minutes. You may not have used quite all of it, but you don't, it goes applicant, opposition, applicant. It doesn't go back for like a rebuttal of the rebuttal. Yeah, and that's proper, one time. Yeah, according to the rules. Does anybody want to hear additional testimony? I'm not seeing 5 people that want to necessarily hear additional testimony, so that's closed. Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. All right, so let's get a motion to approve let's do it like this. Motion to approve the variance of BOA 2025-67 as conditioned by staff as to section 3.7.2. Because we don't need the other variance anymore.
So moved.
Okay. And then we had some additional conditions that were given to us by the applicant. Are there thoughts on those?
Just have a quick thought. If the design is converted, this is for the applicant mostly, but I'd like to hear the comments of my colleagues as well. My concern is that if the design is moved more toward a large home and we remove what's currently drawn here, which is 2 front doors, can that happen in the current configuration without it looking like an afterthought? Or does it need to be a total redesign of the front facade? I hope that makes sense.
We have a friendly architect.
Well, you didn't necessarily ask me, but I do have an opinion. So I don't think it would require a redesign. I think that, if you were adding doors, I think that would probably necessitate a little bit more thought. But I think reducing it to 1 door, is not going to, be a big issue with the design.
So I would proffer, so I don't have his exact conditions, but new condition 2 had to do with the 1 front door. I don't know that, could we say that, an elevation showing 1 front door shall be approved administratively?
Yes.
So that y'all have, and our resident architect has some room to kind of look at that, make sure it fits with what we're looking for.
That could easily work.
Okay, and then the new condition number 3 is requiring it to be graded to the street. New condition number 4 would be requiring a fence on the north side of the property. And then new condition 5 would not allow there to be a front yard fence or gate.
I'm assuming the fence is to be site-proof.
Site-proof fence, but with all the other fence guidelines, it can't be in front of the house, just whatever the code allows.
Understood.
Okay. Are there any objections to those being added to our conditions? Okay, seeing none, so added. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I think given everything going on here, I understand the neighbors' concern about having more things, but there's already all kinds of multifamily. I don't think the slight difference in lot size is going to make much of a difference on that. So unless there's other comments, I'm assuming you're all ready to vote. So if you'll give us a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Claybrook?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Scurlock?
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden?
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met. It will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, motion carries. So if you all submit that new site plan or elevation to